Alright guys, so I guess we'll start with a sound check while I do my tweet to see if anyone can hear me and whether I still exist and all of those things. So beside you or under you, you should see a little chat if you can let me know how I sound. The music, that it's not too intrusive, if there are anyone watching. And I'm going to get started taking a look at the SPY. First, it's Friday, and I know I generally crack a beer every day, but you have to today. Today is a stout, a dark stout, so we'll see how this goes. Probably like a meal. So one thing I noted today when I was just kind of looking through, I spend maybe the last 15 minutes in the market kind of wrapping up and going through the news that happened through the day and the trading and what was interesting and what wasn't. And seems like the Fed started yapping about something at the end of the day, which helped us a bit, but skewed kind of a bit of the results. I wish they wouldn't do that midday, but what are you going to do? So again, if someone could just type in the chat room how everything sounds and looks and that type of thing, and we can get started. Even if I don't mention it, the first guy in here, again, I always assume at least one guy shows up. If he could just say, hey, everything looks good, everything sounds good. Eric says all good. And Eric, I'm going to bring over and we're going to talk about a little bit about what we emailed in a second. Hey, Karim? Am I getting that right? I will be the worst with names. You'll actually see me avoid saying people's names from time to time. But, all right, let's start with the market. Kind of where I always want to start, just to take a look at things. Interesting base here. I like the pink better. Really couldn't get too much over this high. Interesting looking candle, right? I talked about yesterday that we had a lot of bottoming tails down at support. Very interesting that we just pulled back a bit, then went higher. Definitely what Yellen was up there yammering about the Fed rates and stuff like this, helped significantly, but again, the news always follows the technicals one way or the other. So interesting. Most of the day we did pretty much nothing, which you'll see when we review the trading from yesterday's list. For those who were there yesterday, we made a list. I'll go through the speech of kind of what we do here in a second, but chopped around most of the day, broke up, and really closed almost exactly at its high. If I go in, I need to take off the after hours today because one of the stocks we're going to look at, it just screws the chart entirely. But, still going up after hours. This might be the event that finally causes this breakout. Very important to note that when this was happening, I was hearing that it was the end of the world. We had this bounce. When we were back down here, it was the end of the world, right? Back here was the end of the world. It's like whatever this market does to pull back, and let me go way out here, for years and years and years, right? We're talking, this is just 2 years ago, but, right, every kind of sell is getting quickly reversed, right? Regardless of how far back you go. And every time it cracks, you hear in the news that this is it, this is the end of the bull market, and, until something catastrophic, I think, is going to have to happen. I follow this one guy who's, I think, more comedy than anything else on YouTube. And I say that not disparagingly. He's a fantastic trader. He's been trading for a long time. It's Hit the Bid, if anyone's ever heard of it. He's been talking for 5 years now. He's been pounding at the table that Godzilla and Mothra need to show up in order to tank this market, and I'm starting to believe him. When the last bear gives up hope is when we're going to crash, guaranteed. But until then, looking high. Kind of reverse here in gold, which is what you expect to see. I usually don't do these with you guys around. I usually do them on my own time, but I like to look at gold. I like to look at financials. I like to look at tech, and I like to look at oil. See what's leading and what's lagging, right? That simple analysis I did right there by cycling through like 4 charts shows energy good, energy bad, gold's pulling back, financials not the best, right? If we're look at this relative to the market, you know, we're way down here where the market's almost hitting new highs. So it's tech, right? So tech's leading the charge. Again, not going to make any trading decisions off that. It's just I like to know what road I'm driving on, if that makes any sense. The reason we're doing this right at 5 is kind of just basically just it's Friday. That's my excuse. So let's take a look here. And this is actually something that was brought up via email, that I was talking Twitter about one of the trades that happened, and the person mentioned that the list that I bring over and that I showed you guys yesterday doesn't have this, didn't have that trade. We're missing one here. And then again, what I'll say is that when I talk about, oh, if we get a pullback to here, it might be interested as a buy here and then a push higher, I'm building individual scenarios for what I think are going to happen, right? So what I usually do at the end of the day is I usually try to combine them into one and give them to you. But the entry criteria for each one is going to be a bit different, right? Momo stocks are going to be a bit different. High vol stocks will be a bit different. Low vol stocks will be a bit different. So when it comes down to it, we're talking, I think, three or four different entry algorithms. But again, so they're different, and they all kind of depend on what I'm looking for in the stock. So you're not nuts if you took what I did yesterday and you got some different results, but just know it's because I am doing different things over here. And again, it's very important that if you're going to look at a style like this, which I am starting to highly recommend, I'm starting to enjoy it more than my purely automated strategies. Make sure the entry criteria fit what you want, right? It doesn't, you can be right on the direction the next day, but if you pick the wrong entry criteria, you're sunk. You can be wrong on the direction the next day, but if you pick the right entry criteria, you can actually do okay. That being said, let's go through the trades here. ESRX, again, we were looking yesterday, we saw this kind of push up to fill the gap, tag the gap and reversed, so we put it on a short list today. Triggered right in this area here for a short. Sold down somewhere in this area. The robot got out most for, I think, my 40-50 cents, and then popped up and just kind of filled the rest flat for a plus 20 cents thereabout on that last little bit. Again, when I say selling, sometimes I say half by accident. It's most, you know, it's, I don't like talking about sizes because, again, I saw this one guy who's been doing this journal of his trades, and then he just flashes a random video up of him and his attractive girlfriend swimming in a pool. It's like, don't get away from the purpose. So I always remind myself that, but I do 80%. So if you were a 100-share trader, I would say cover 80 shares down there, hold 20. Hell, if it goes 2 points in my direction, great. If not, whatever. But the reason I want to get out most is because quite often, most times, stocks will move both ways in a day. So I want to make sure that I'm taking profits when they're presented. But so when I say, and if I misspeak sometimes and say took half off here, it's most. It's 80% roughly of the position that I'm taking out. Team was the most boring in history. Oh, I guess I can just bring these in while I'm looking at them. Team triggered at 89 and just went as low as 74 and as high as like 99, I think. So did nothing. And Grub was just kind of an instant stop out for 20 cents. So on this window, we're net 40 cents and then net 10 cents and then net negative 20 cents, right? Sorry. I got one of those Apple Watches and it distracts me sometimes when it beeps and buzzes. And J&J triggered in here. Didn't quite get stopped out. Close. Bounced by the end of the day, but really wasn't too much to speak of there. SKT, about nothing as well, right? Triggered at 68, closed at 64. So, and INTU, this one actually pulled back enough to hit my stop right down here before bouncing. So those longs didn't work out too well. Shorts over here, Delphi. Got short at 45, went as low as, I think, 08. Didn't actually get out any there, but moved my stop break even. So took a break even stop on that. The one that kind of made it all today, other than that ESRX, was CERN. Triggered right here at 23, 64.23. Got out most, again, in that 50 cent gain area. So that would be, what, the 70s in here. Chopped around for the rest and then killed the rest near the end of the day. I've got we have something programmed into our bot that just says, look at my positions that you have opened you can set it. I do it, just a couple minutes before the bell. Anything open, just kill. And that's what happened with these when I say the back half. Is it counts, I think it's like 3 minutes before the close. It just hits a flatten all key. Make sure all my orders are canceled and that I'm out of everything to kind of, prevent me from not paying attention, and then the market closes and the spreads open up and all that bad stuff. And one more window here, one more trade for ATV. Triggered here at 70. Got 20-30 cents out of it, but to be honest, the bot kind of killed it before this late day spike. So although it closed a lot higher, I didn't get most of that. I got somewhere in this type area. So couple losses, couple gains. All right, the gains were much bigger than the losses, and I think I had one or two more movers than stop outs. So all in all, that's all I'm looking for, right? You'll never hear me come in and say, well, I guess, no, that'd be wrong. I was about to say you'll never hear me come in and brag about how I nailed 100%. That will be rare, right? I'm playing both sides. I'm doing it blind the night before using algos. Plus, I don't think that anybody who tries to go for a strategy of winning all the time, I think you're destined to failure. So again, I'm looking, if I'll be a happy camper if I can get a 66% win rate and a 2-to-1 risk reward, right? You can sit there and do the numbers yourself, but after that, it's all about what you want to risk, right? So I hit about that today. Happy camper for Friday. Okay, so the trading style, if there's anyone new, again, I don't even know if there's anyone here. Let me pop out my chat and bring this in so I can always have an eye on it. Hi, guys. Eric, I hope that answered the email that you sent. Any more questions, just email me again. Let me go here. So if there is anyone new, basically I am day trader, algo trader, massive fan of Trade Ideas. I've been a member for 10 years now. I use Trade Ideas to narrow down all of the stocks in the universe to ones that I want to see. I then add them to a list and I go in and I create these alert windows. where I say only show me this stock that I've picked the night before if X, Y, and Z happen, because I have tested those specific scenarios on thousands and thousands and thousands of stock, and I know entering there gives me an edge, plus entering these stocks, I believe, using my technical eye, will give me an edge. So I'm hoping for an edge within an edge, and then allowing, for myself, I take these and I then plug them into a bot, and I allow the bot to trade them, thus removing kind of my emotions, making everything very clinical throughout the day. So basically taking my human mind right now and then cramming it into a robot and telling the robot to do all the work intraday is basically what we're doing. Again, if you're not algo trading, you can just leave up these windows and have it alert you when one comes through, and then have kind of a trading plan for, okay, when this window triggers, I am going to short 200 shares with a 30-cent stop and a 60-cent target, and then you just have to push the buttons yourself type of thing, right? So whether you're auto trading, you can just plug them right in with the bot that I'm building with my prop firm. Again, if you're interested in the prop firm that I'm partnering with, fire me an email. Or with Trade Ideas, their interactive brokers bot. And again, links for Trade Ideas and everything are just down below the video. Or if you want a discretionary trade, kind of using your own system here. But again, it's just a way to narrow. There's so much going on intraday all the time. I'm trying to narrow down the situations in which I'm looking at something, or in this case, my bot is looking at something based only on things that I have decided the night before have an edge based off of my technical analysis. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to modify these lists. We'll start with the shorts. And you can see, and this is another thing where you'll see, Eric, what I do is I have different lists here. I actually just deleted 2. I usually have 6, sometimes I have 8, sometimes I have 4, depending what I'm looking for. And you notice that I just name them differently. And these are based off of the stops that I think are used. So the reason why CERN didn't show up in the one you were looking on, but showed up the one I was looking on, is because this one's programmed a bit differently, because I figured with CERN a 20-cent stop was just not possible. So then I kind of move it, and then I also change the entry criteria as well, if that makes sense. So, you know, Trade Ideas, account management, symbol list editors, you can build your own symbol lists, and then when you build these alert windows, you just point them so they're only looking at that symbol list, right? So you can pick whatever kind of symbol list that you're eyeing from there. Move this back in. So when I say I'm adding it to the list and removing it to the list, I'm typing just over on my other screen here, and you'll notice that this updated because I cleared them all like a dummy. Crap. Does anyone have the list from last night? Jesus. Hold on. I need to go to my YouTube channel, and I need to look up last night's video, and I need to go to the end, because generally what I'll start to do is I'll look up what was on yesterday's list. Oh, Eric might be on it. Oh, I think it, so that was it, right? Okay, perfect. We'll go off yours. Thanks. Appreciate that, Eric. So Eric gave us the list there, I think. Yeah, AME. So basically I'm just lazy at this point. I've already have like a 2-hour-a-day workday, but I try to limit it. So I'll first go through the list that we created the night before and see if anything is still valid for today. So that's what we're doing first. Generally the list will be right here. But I clicked update when I was showing you guys that web page, so it cleared the list out. But AME I'm going to leave in. I think we're still kind of overbought in this area. Would have worked nice today, just nothing I was watching had a trigger on it. Oh, limitation for the chat. BERY. Gonna put this back on the list too. We were looking at this yesterday, just kind of overdone, looking for a pullback. 1 day of an inside day is still good to me. If we kind of continue to base forward for the next few days, I'll ignore it. Cost. Costco, man, that would have been great to get some of that, but none of that. No triggers today, and that's obviously did kind of exactly what we wanted, because I think we noted that this was an area up here we were interested in, so we'll ignore that. Delphi. Man, here I'm having to type in symbols. Oh, we got a trade on that, so I should know what that looked like. Didn't really do much, and I don't think it's really overextended and has a little bottoming tail here, so we're going to leave that one off. ESRX is going to be the same thing. Yeah, it has a nice bottoming tail here, did exactly what we wanted, so we'll leave that alone. FIS did what we wanted. We didn't get a fill on it, but we were looking at it hitting its area here and pulling in. Didn't get a trade there, so I'll ignore that. One thing I'm seeing for today is there's a lot of good trades I didn't get, so I might myself, Eric, be spending the weekend trying to refine my entry ideas, because what, we found 3 already that if the robot got a fill on, it would have been interesting. So we'll take a look to see if we can get, if maybe I need to build in another entry criteria. Grub, we're going to keep on the list. Just a straight stop out today. I wasn't able to move my stop break even or take out part of the position or whatever. I think it triggered in this area and just kept going. So still looking a bit overdone, and I think we noted that this area has been interesting in the past. RHT. And again, guys, you'll notice I'm going a little bit faster today than normal. Again, it's Friday, and I want to figure out how I can do the first part in like a half hour so that I can just hang out for hours if you guys want to do Q&A stuff. I have a lot of fun with it, and to be honest, I think it's I don't know. I used to buy traders back on the prop firm supper and beer and all this stuff just to hang out with them, to try to figure out what it is that they were doing differently or thinking differently from me. So I think that if I hang around, not that I'm still not as good as those guys were, but I think that's beneficial for new traders. So team just didn't do anything, still pushed up, still technically overbought. So we're gonna look for a weakness there tomorrow. And what was one last was Yum. Yum we're going to add in. We're just looking at kind of this area here on Yum and seeing that we moved up significantly from it, and we got it yesterday. I think it was in our Bollinger Band and our RSI list as well, so overbought under different indicators and resistance as well. So Yum we're going to leave back in there as well. So, again, if you're new to Trade Ideas, flip this. Trade Ideas is a data service provider. They give you every tick of every stock of every market, and then you can kind of sort it whichever way you like. From there, they do things. You can do back testing and auto trading and all kinds of wicked stuff, and that's what I do. The intraday stuff where I do the trading. And so from there, basically what we're doing is we're saying, okay, that's all the super advanced stuff intraday, but what it does really well as its core is sorts data for us. So I'm just going to be using it now, and again, I can share all of these. I can share some of these scans. Some of them have customs. I'll show you the customs, right? I'm not going to be people that may not be named who you're going to show up their website and they're going to be, here's $1,000. They want $1,000, and literally to share a scan, you do save and share and copy, and then there, you guys got it, right? So if you want something, speak up and I'll see if we can get it for you. What I do usually like to do a lot of base breaks and do a lot of this type of trading as well, but we noted that the SPY has been range bound for a very long time. So we're going to continue to keep playing range bound type plays until that stops working. So I'm going to be playing a lot of pullbacks to support and, pullbacks or bounce ups to resistance. So this first list we're looking at is simply a Bollinger Band list. So it's just saying, okay, I want stocks that have done, I think it's 1 million shares today. I think if they have to have a minimum average true range, and they have to be outside of the Bollinger Bands on the daily. So revision to the mean traders are going to look at and say that is an overbought stock. So that's what the scan is. And you'll just see me kind of go through, and then it will update on a daily chart here and a 15-minute chart here, right? I know for any of you who come regularly, I probably repeat myself a lot, but I'm hoping, again, that new people are finding their way. So I want to keep them posted. Oh, before I forget, I'm going to turn back on. I usually look at 5-minute charts, and I usually want to include pre and post market, just to see if there's anything happening after hours. But just some of the stocks that we were reviewing, if I left that on, was it AVT or something, right? It just ruined the charts. So that's why I took it off for that. And one thing, I had another question that I thought I'd talk about here too. Someone says you're looking at a lot of overbought, oversold stuff for, revision to the mean because the market's kind of bouncing around. He said, but you don't seem to look at things that are overbought that have recently gapped. And I may have explained this before, but if not, and if you haven't heard it, the reason I ignore a gap when I'm looking at a significant gap, right? I would still look at something this small, but when I do revision to the mean type stuff is because a gap is usually a change in fundamentals, right? If the stock's gapped overnight, there's been some sort of news, earnings, press release, whatever, that changes the way people think about that stock. So I don't really look at it as a technical gap anymore. It's more of a fundamental gap, and I'm trying to risk 20 cents to make 50, 60 cents and then be right 50% of the time and do that 3 times a day. So news really just kind of gets in my way, so I try to avoid it. That being said, on SYY, even though we had some small gaps here, we're kind of smacking our head right into that resistance area. So I am going to add this to the short list for tomorrow. And don't worry, I know I'm doing this kind of off stream, but we do a wrap up at the end of each day of what it is we're going to look at going forward. Man, Zillow. I know I just finished saying that I want to avoid gaps, but Zillow is getting to the point where a move from 32 to 42 is just so uncharacteristic for this stock. I am going to include this in Monday's list. So if I do end up streaming next week, come on in for Monday to see if I should have listened to myself earlier. INXN here. We're already up to 8. Again, I limit myself at 10 stocks, just so that I'm not too heavily weighted. Kind of, I don't have 20 possible long ideas and 10 possible short ideas, and then all of a sudden that's going to be the worst down day ever for the market, right? All of my 20 long ideas or whichever of those trigger get stopped out, and then my short ideas, there isn't enough of them to make up for the other side. And we're going to put on EXAS, I think. It's getting... I'll show you what is interesting here in a second. Although we had a pretty significant volume spike today, 7.4 million, that's 3 times what it normally does. Again, for new trade ideas people, I've got things here that I'm glancing at, like average true range and short float and days to cover and today's range and that type of thing. Single stock window, if you have it, and you can just right click and click customize, and you can have it display here whatever you want to see. So over here I'm looking and I'm saying the range is huge, over double its normal range, but volume here, it actually did a lot less than even here, which makes me think that might be a bad print or something, but less volume than it did here as well. So just overdone, and the decrease in volume kind of caught my eye with the increase in range. Oh, stout is good. The smart stop is 75, Eric, and I'm glad there's at least somebody here. So I don't know the exact calculation of the smart stop. I could probably get it from them, but I know it's derived based off of the range and the volume that happened over the last the last day. And my bet is that it's basically made up from this, and that you can see the rest of the day it didn't move very much. So I kind of eyeballed it too, right? And this is what I said. I use these as guides, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure you eyeball it. And you'll see me do a lot of this stuff, and there's a reason. I play video games, and if you ever played video games, you notice that you get little fidgets and twitches that you do constantly. I do this a lot, I've noticed now, right? Centering my mouse here. But when I do this, it kind of looks fidgety and it looks like it might be one of those things. But what I'm looking at is, it's looking at this as a resistance. I'm looking at this as a support area, right? I'm going to program into the bot tomorrow that if we break this support area, I know we've got this kind of vacuum down here. So then when I'm doing this and I'm moving my mouse up and down seeming erratically, I'm looking at that and saying, okay, well, that's $35 and that's $35.50 right here. And I'm kind of taking a look and saying, all right, well, this is going to need about 40 or 50 cents, right? So again, when I brought in this, one thing I showed you is I've got these numbers here, right? So this I'm looking at as 40. So these are basically kind of where my high volatile stocks will go. So when I'm doing stuff like this in my head, I'm kind of making a note, and I'm actually sometimes jotting them down on a piece of paper beside me, and just say EXAS might be a bit too volatile to stick in the standard window, I guess. Which again goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how you brought this window and you said this is kind of what I looked at what you were doing yesterday. And I said, no, well, some of them go in different ones. And that has a lot to do with me doing this. So I'm kind of betting that 75 cents is going to be wrong. And I'm going to just think on it for a minute whether or not, if I broke this area, how far would I want the bot to let it go back, right? And I don't think I'd want more than 40 cents, right? If I'm shorting down here and then it bounces all the way back up in this area, I'm probably wrong, right? So right? Kind of, again, it's like the way I look at this as a trading philosophy. I spent a very short stint as an execution trader back in the day. And what you do as an execution trader is the boss will come out and say, all right, we decided, we all got together, EXAS, we need to hold 100 million shares for our fund, right? A big hedge fund. We got to buy 100 million shares. You got to do it sometime in the next week. We're looking to get under 35 bucks a share, right? And then he closes the door. As an execution trader, you have to sit there and you have to say, okay, well, I need to start buying on down ticks, right? Maybe I know they do. A fair amount of shenanigans of faking orders or slamming the bid or stuff like this to force the stock down and then buy it as it, right? A lot of games will start to get played. So basically how I'm treating this whole philosophy is I am building this list and then using trade ideas and the awesome system they have there is alert windows, kind of telling my execution trader, which is the bot, saying, I want some EXAS under $34.99. I want you to get it around this $35 area. And then if it gets up to $35.40, I'm out, right? That's where we're going to put the stop. And then, of course, we're going to try to get into the 34s if we're risking 40 cents, right? So that's how I'm looking at this, right? The robot is my execution trader. I'm the portfolio manager, I guess, best on a better term. So it's why, you know, there'll be different lists and different entry criteria based off of the different stocks and what I want. But generally speaking, I have like 4 to 6, and I'll just put them in based off of how volatile I think they are and that type of stuff. So I hope that kind of analogy makes sense, where right now I'm the portfolio manager, and then I'm just going to tell the execution trader what I want and when I want and if certain things happen type of thing. So Stocks Unhinged says thanks. Oh, no worries, man. Again, I grew up trading, watching Today Trader, which is Steve Gomez, who works with Trade Ideas now. And I watched their little YouTube video series. They had a thing each and every day. And I remember learning like so much more from just being able to sit there and watch that stuff than from any book or anything like that. And I kind of said that if I ever start to figure this out, which I just only feel like now I'm starting to figure it out, I feel like I still have miles and miles and miles to go, that I would share the same, right? And that, you know, the one-on-one time and stuff, I charge for that. The only support I get from this is if people see Trade Ideas and say, oh, this looks cool, and they click that link below, I get some commissions. But I like the teaching. I'm a bit of a hippie, so I kind of believe in karma as well. So hopefully you give back and then something kind of cool from happens. Yeah, him and Andy, Eric, I watched every video that they've ever put out a couple times, and I was starting that 10 years ago when they were kind of the first guys on YouTube doing the thing. So I got some questions. I guess I'll pause. I think actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we'll find one more short, and then we'll be done with the shorts, and then I'll take a break, answer some questions. We'll do the long, and then the Q&A at the end. I'll shoot the shit for whatever. I've got some nerd things to do after this and play some video games with friends, but W day for sure. It's going to be the last one. Big move up, technically overbought, hitting resistance. Crap. Nope. I'm going to take that off because, again, when I eyeballed it, what we were talking about yesterday is I was looking at this as kind of support that could break down. But again, when I'm telling my execution trader, I'm going to tell him I want it somewhere near 92, and I don't think I could get away with a reasonable risk on this one. So Again, I'm not only looking at the price action, but I'm also looking at the risk reward scenarios as well, which is something you have to do. I bet you most of you guys, with whatever you're doing, are already right 50% of the time, you know. And we spend a lot of time as traders just saying, man, if I was just correct more often, right? I need to learn how to read charts better. I need to learn how to do this stuff better. But it's usually not that. You can be right 50% of the time and make a shit ton of money. You just gotta get that win rate in your favor. So when I'm looking at price, this next step is, A, is it a pattern I like? B, do I think I could risk, 20 cents to make 40 cents, 40 cents to make 80 cents? And I just didn't see it there. But yeah, I see your guys' questions there, and we'll get, once we find something else, which has proven to be a bit difficult. Like, I like the price action on this. Big move up to a top here, pull back a bit, but, what am I going to do? Tell the bot to short it and then risk 5 cents to make 10? It's just not. Even if you're right, you can still lose the money. Again, I know some of the guys that I used to trade when I used to actually trade on a physical desk. There was one guy who would sit down and trade, and he'd lose $10, lose $10, lose. And this is when we were scalping, right? It was, you trade 2,000 shares at a time, and you were scalping, right? It wasn't. Move this over. This is another Bollinger Band scan, but it's just on 60-minute charts instead of daily charts. So we're going to flip that to a long. So he'd come in, he'd lose $10, lose $10, lose $10, have something go in his favor, 50, 60 cents, right? And he's trading 2,000 share lots, so that's his grand, and he's done. He'd walk out. And it was just crazy to watch his P&L, because he'd be like, oh, lost $10 there, lost $20 there, lost $30 there. And it seemed like damn near every day there was just that one trade that would, make enough, cover all, because he was losing so tiny when he was losing. That one trade would make up for it, and he'd be like, all right, that's it, I'm done. And he'd leave. And 9 times out of 10, easy. At some point, he would figure that out. Nothing there either, so we're going to go to this scan, and this is just looking for topping tails. So it's something that I built within Trade Ideas, just saying, right, I just want that. That's why I call it the middle finger, because it's we used to call it the middle finger of God, right? Basically saying F you. Yeah, stocks, we can take a look at that after. Why don't you email me? So below the video, there's the description. That's where Trade Ideas codes and all that shameless sellout plug stuff is. Below that's just my email. Just fire me an email with the full code in it. Just kind of being too lazy to put in the whole thing. But yeah, we'll take a look at that. Oh, Zen. Zen's going to be the last one. Well, what do you want, right? I've already put in the overbought, right? You can flip that to oversold. These are a little bit more complicated. I would play with these a little bit later when you learn a little bit about Trade Ideas and you're ready for custom formulas. Come get me and we'll go through those. This one I'll share as well, which is kind of the same thing as... Copy all there, which is kind of the same as this, except it uses RSI instead. But basically what we're looking for here on this Zen is we had this strong trend up. We were actually thinking of putting it on the list long for today, but had this big gap down, ran up in the morning, smacked its head against this resistance line we drew a long time ago. Overshot it a bit and then came in. So I think if we bounce back to this type of area and fail at it tomorrow, so this one, Eric, I'll probably use more of the scans that you know from yesterday, right? Where I want to look for something like this that runs up and fails. Right, if we can get a short anywhere near here and a stop over there, I think we can get a good move. And we'll hit update, and now we got all our shorts. So let's go through the questions. And I'm sorry if any of these are timely. I don't think they are, that I missed them. So does the bot trade all of my scans? Well, everything I want it to, yeah. I don't place trades anymore. Basically, I found out a long time ago. I remember there was one time I was trading from home one day. I traded for a desk, did some other stuff, went to work for a hedge fund that wasn't trading related, and then came back and started trading for myself 2.5 years ago. One of those times when I was working for the hedge fund, I did a lot of my own kind of things for extra, right? And I remember I was in a chat room and I was sharing ideas with that chat room. And, you know, I'd already told her that I had a shitty day. I screwed something up. I did something bad. I had a shitty day. And then she walked by and the speakers were on, and one of the other moderators in that chat room popped on and just started talking about what a genius I was, because everything I called out today was perfect. She poked her head in and just said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I don't even remember what I did, but I did something emotional and rash, and I screwed everything up, whereas everything that I was looking at carefully, calmly, no emotions for this chat room was working out phenomenally. So even though I was still trading well then, I was like, yeah, I went through the last 6 months of trading and I did a lot of my own analysis, and I noticed that everything, you know, I would trade good and I was making money and all this, and then I would do one thing and you could almost see my emotional fuck ups because they were large single P&L hits, right? So, you know, I'm right 60% of the time. I'm making a lot more than I win and I lose. You know, maybe that week I should have made, I round numbers. I never want to be the number guy, but say for my simplicity, I would have made $1,000 that week. But look at that one $200 loss. That one $200 loss, I remember that trade. That was me being stupid and sizing up too much or doing something like this. So I always felt like my income was capped based off of these kind of emotional decisions. So since I've been playing with the bot and auto trading, I did a lot of my own trading on the side, and, you know, working on myself, I was able to improve that somewhat. But then when I'm trading this style, I'm like, why not let the bot do it all? And then I don't see those anymore, right? So I have the more calm, smoothed type returns, right? There are some downside to bot trading, which I talk about, but I haven't placed a trade myself in months. Just not. I like this better as well. I find I'm a better trader right now than I will be when the bell rings, if that makes any sense. Which alert filter will identify this kind of movement? Eric, can you specify what kind of movement you're talking about in this question? I forgot. So, right. So it wasn't so much I need to auto trade to replace trading, because I have auto traders come to me all the time, and I just say, you're not ready for this yet because you need to learn to trade first. You need to learn the tenets, like the core fundamental beliefs of trading. You need to learn, the core kind of fundamental beliefs, the systems, you know, this is what trading is, and then tell a bot to do it for you, again, as like an execution person, right? So yeah, all of my tradings are done. Just looking at my OBS, are you guys hearing my music at all? I think YouTube may have stopped me from doing it at all. So So I enjoy trading. I wouldn't want to do it. And again, I think there's benefits to this trading style even without. No, I don't hear music. I think YouTube took away my ability. I got like 4 emails that everything was copyright claimed, and I don't know why that is. Oh, I know why it is. I was playing copyrighted music, but I don't know why I can't put music. That's a shame. I always want to listen to something in the background so I'm not boring. So, yeah, I think there is benefits to. Yeah, I think there's benefits to this kind of style if you can still do this style if you want to trade it yourself, right? All you're doing is you're building alert windows, and in those alert windows, you're putting in these symbol lists, right? So you're almost building your own optimized scan, and then you can just watch them and do whatever you want, right? Maybe you know better than something else, right? But oh, maybe gonna kill your ears here. Sorry, that's like really loud. Let me know. I think I figured out the music thing. Yeah, so you can trade with this even if you don't want to trade. And there are some people, I still think that if I was an amazing trader, that I could do even better than my bot does, and I've always said that. Some things the bot can monitor the 20 stocks we're going to put on this list fine without you know, getting tired or anything like that. So there's benefits to both sides, I guess. Okay, so Keith, what's your alert criteria for your alert windows? We actually went through a lot of different. We did a lot of that earlier, so I guess maybe watch the VOD back. But there's a bunch of different ways. I look. Sometimes I use pullback type plays. Sometimes I want to see topping tails or bottoming tails in the intraday chart. Sometimes it's breaks of supports and resistance, these type of things. So, you know, this one, for example, is basically looking for a pattern like this where there's like a stock consecutive candles higher and then a break lower. There's, you know, some I use, and again, I always recommend. This is one thing that I think Trade Ideas has really killed. If you go under search and you just look at resistance, these support and resistance, these are little mini algos within algos where it identifies support and resistance on the chart the next day. So when I'm looking at a stock and I'm saying when I'm looking at a stock and I'm saying, okay, well, what was a good example? EXAS, I think. Yeah, when we were looking at this, we were saying, okay, it's got some good support here at 35 and then resistance above. I would plug into the bot that I don't want to see much of a gap, right? So I'd say, okay, I don't want to get it to gap up or down more than 1%, right? Which would be 35 cents, which means that it's either going to open around here or it's going to open around here, right? Somewhere. Let me get my drawing tool, right? By saying I don't want it to gap, you're ensuring that the open is going to be in this area or it's going to forget it. And then I might say something like I want a break of support using that support algo that I just showed you. And then I'll say something else like as long as it hasn't moved more than, you know, 30 cents already, right? So that stops it from selling down to here and then basing sideways and then breaking reserve support, right? So you have to use these, and again, this is what I teach when I do the one-on-one mentoring. You have to figure out how to use different the different filters and alerts to make sure you're only seeing the trade that you kind of want it to see or better type of thing. If that, I hope that helps. The real answer to that is that there's a lot of different ones, and make sure you're using one that makes sense for you and what you want to see that next day. So Eric was wondering about ESRX today. What triggered this? This was essentially we were looking at ESRX yesterday, and we said, okay, what I saw, I keep saying we, the royal we, noted that when it popped up here yesterday, when we were looking at it, it hit this resistance and sold off. And I probably yammered on in bunch and said, you know, if we get a bounce kind of anywhere in and above this area and then a sell signal, that's where I'll want to look to short. You know, I'll want the stop above, and then I'll want the profit target, you know, 40-50 cents away. So what I put in is I basically told Trade Ideas it needs to have shot up 3, I think, 5-minute candles in a row before making a new 5-minute candle low, right? So a pattern kind of like exactly what happened there. And then I said about a 20-cent stop, because I know that if it's triggering here, I was looking at the average range of 5-minute candles. It's about 20 cents. So then I knew the stop would be about here. And then I limited the gap. I said, again, with the other ones, I don't want it to gap here or here. Oh, EXAS. Oh, sorry. I was answering a different question. So yes, I guess I answered that, Eric, when I was talking about, when I was answering someone else's question. So the other thing to note, guys, is I will get back to the chat as soon as I can. You gotta remember you're delayed by like a minute. So type in advance things that you want me to see, because the communication's lagging a bit. So sorry about that, but yeah, you got to note that if you type something, it's probably going to be a minute or two by the time it goes to the internet, I see it, and the video gets sent back to you, kind of thing. If that makes sense. So yeah, so for this, I would use the support algorithm. I would say I don't want it to have based, and I don't want it to have changed much from the open. And again, the support algorithm would work through here. And then I think I'm probably going to do a 40-cent stop and an 80-cent target, right? Which means that if Trade Ideas sees this as support, which I think it will, I'm going to look to try to get out above 34, and my stop is going to be somewhere up here. So again, I hope that helped. What am I doing with the RSI scanner I shared? Again, I just use these to scan stocks that are technically overbought or oversold, and I look for them to smack into support or resistance. So, all right, let's take a little break from questions. Type them, anything I didn't answer well enough. Again, type them. Realize that you guys are delayed a little bit. And we're gonna go through the longs. ATVI was good today. I still like the look of the daily chart. It didn't move enough to really be worth a damn today, so I'm going to get rid of that. Best Buy did what we wanted. It's no longer interesting. CERN was great. Did what we wanted, but we're no longer interested. Same with a lot of these, to be honest. SKT... it doesn't move enough. TD and... Oh, you meant how would you trade the first part? I wouldn't. Right? Again, I'm looking for a very specific set of things to happen, right? So I want my fill to be somewhere in this area. So that the stop can be somewhere in this area and the target can be somewhat in this area on bearish price action. So this, if the reason I trade the way I do with profit targets, small stops, that type of thing, is you might look at something like this and been like, yeah, I got to build something to find that. You're just not gonna. That's like a 10% move in a day. I would ignore this entirely. I think that's a red herring. Oh, which alert to see something moving that high intraday? You could use the consecutive. So here, let me build something for you guys and show it live. So let me know, Eric, are you looking to fade a move like this, or are you looking to fade something like this, or are you looking to kind of trade this as you want to find this in here somewhere so that you can chase it, I guess, and hope it goes higher? So I'll show you the easiest way, and we'll go again. So I clicked create new top list, and I'll share this when I'm done. Start from scratch. I'm gonna put in price, let's say between $1 and $200 to identify and ride. Okay, and what I'm going to say is I want consecutive 15-minute candles. I want at least 3 of them. The volume today, again, I like volume today instead of average volume, because who cares if it did 500,000 shares yesterday if it did 10 million today. So I'll say 750,000 shares, and then I'll go sort and consecutive volume, consecutive candles with 15 minutes on top, and price, consecutive candles. So what you'll see is you'll see stocks like this that are starting to make these parabolic moves by being up 3, 4, 15-minute candles in a row. Just a quick thing, right? Something you might want to play with this weekend. But yeah, you'll only see them after they've gone up 3 15-minute candles in a row. So if you're looking for something like that and you want to bring it up and say, okay, this thing's starting to really move, and get going from there. Now, if you're asking me to build you something that would find that at the bottom, good luck. That I wouldn't tell you if I found that. I would just be trading 1 million shares a day off that thing. So now we're going to look for longs. We found no longs from our last scan, so we're starting everything from scratch there. I'm going to scan and look. Let's see if I can multitask at all. So I'm going to try to scan while I look. Yeah, we would all love to find an alert on a $30 stock before it jacks up 10% an hour. But sorry if I find that. I'm not going to tell you guys. That would be something I'd keep very close to the vest. All right. See if I can do this. Scan and answer questions. Maybe it'll be entertaining for people. What is this? These are giving me junk. Hold on here. Yeah, it's just not a lot. Alright, so LK, have you ever tried using the cross below support alert for longs? I have. I actually have a scan. That is a proprietary scan that I want to share a little bit. I'm going to put on I'm going to put on IPHI here. I like that how hard it's holding this gap, and it's getting very close to this kind of clear skies higher, and had a nice little base at the end of the day here that we could play off of. But so if you are buying the break of a resistance area, generally as a trader, you don't want it to have run up a very long period of time in order to break that resistance area. And that's all I'll say about the scan that I created for using the break of a resistance area to actually initiate a short. And hopefully that was clear enough for the people who are willing to put the work in and not clear enough for the people who would just jack my algo. See, SKT still looks phenomenal, but just not enough. This might be hard, fellas. Sorry, what part did I cut off at? Yeah, but you know, you have to keep some of the things that you've worked hours and hours and hours to create to yourself, right? I teach a lot, I think, and give out a lot, but if I did cut out, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep an eye on this live dashboard that says how everything's going. Seems to be going well. I don't know if the music's kind of drowning you out. OBS says it's playing now, but geez, there is nothing out there I'm seeing for longs. Prince Edward Island. No. Oh, sorry, Karim, I missed your question up there about what do you want for a strong stock? You want a strong stock making a 62-week high or 52-week high? We can do that. Remind me about that in a second. That'll be super easy. No, I was just saying that I hope that was enough for... Someone asked about using a support break as a long play, and I just kind of gave them a long-winded hint on under what scenarios buying a support break might be a good thing. And that, yes, I have done it, and there may or may not be some things within Holly that are using that same concept right now. Yeah, and yeah, the prop firm is a very fast software, super fast. The bot is going to be as fast as you can get it. I always want to shy away from the do what I do scenario, right? I hate that when people talk about I hate the this is how I made $1 million, come do the same thing. Because to be honest, from someone who's actually traded for a long period of time, I could have you could have the best trader in the world sitting next to you being like, you should buy this here and you should sell this here, and I guarantee you, if it's not your idea, if it's not, you know, you haven't gone through the journey to learn and refine, you're not gonna succeed with it. It's just not gonna happen. I'm gonna add on STOR. It's not the best range, but I can't find a damn thing for a long. I might need to go deep inside the hammer, the hammer scan that I created, because I really don't foresee any of that. What broadcast? I'm using OBS, Open Broadcast software. It's also what I use to record my YouTube videos. I think it works okay. I can't stand watching back my own streams and stuff, which is why I always try to get you guys to do the sound balancing for me. I don't know if everybody is like this, but I hate the sound of my own voice. Hate it. What the Raptors? Oh, for the EXAS, for example. Yeah, that might be things hitting a new 52-week high, and that's real easy to build in Trade Ideas. You just use new alert window. Yeah, if you use new high and you type in 365 here, it's only going to show you things hitting a new 52-week high right off the bat. Preach it. Yeah, I don't want to bash on anything. Like I hate, like, do you, right? Whatever your hustle is, just go nuts. I don't want to be that guy saying don't, because I don't know. I haven't traded with a lot of them. Maybe a lot of them give like really good education information and stuff like that, but I watch me stammer on my words as I try to be nice. But I've just been around this game too long, and I know that I tell this story many times, and anyone who's followed for any length of time might get old, but in the prop firm, it was kind of tradition, right? The traders who had been there for a while teach the newbies, right? The newbies just sit behind you and watch and do that kind of stuff. And we had this old fart who always would say, it doesn't matter. I could give those guys tomorrow's paper and they'd still find a way to fuck it up. And what he was not so nicely trying to say, is that you have to learn this stuff for yourself. You can't follow other traders. You're either going to be late, things won't make sense. It's, or that one trader is going to have, like, today I made money every day this week, and same with last week. The week before that, I think I had 2 losing days, right? It's different for everybody, right? So, and every trader will go through a cold period, right? There will be a week that will come up where this strategy just can't buy a trade, just can't happen, and every week's it's just gonna happen, and I'm gonna have to sit back, and either I got out of control or the robot got out of control and I needed to come up with new entry criteria or something like this. So I need to go back and I need to work and I need to put in the work and fix it from there. Whereas if you just buy someone's calls or strategies, when they go cold, you're probably just going to screw off and leave, right? And then what happens is you basically bought that guy. If that guy was a stock, you bought him when he was high and you sold him when he was low, right? So then if he's a good trader, he realized that he is royally screwing up. CATM, I'm going to keep an eye on here. It moves down here, right? And big support here. So I'm going to try to see if I can get a pullback back to this and then a bounce. Right, so, if you're following a guy and he goes cold and you sell him, right, you sold him low. And if he's a good trader and he's been through cold periods and low periods, he's doing what all good traders do, where he's pulling back and he's regrouping and he's figuring out what to do next. And he's kind of, reworking his strategies, reworking his entries. He's trying to see whether it's his system that's failing or whether he's failing his system. He's doing all these good things. And when he comes back, he'll probably be a killer again. But you're out, right? So I always want to tell people, if you build your own thing, then it avoids that hopping from the next best thing, and when the next best thing explodes. Like, these really low float guys, I think they probably had a really big edge a while ago. And I think what's happening now is they're kind of losing that edge because everybody's hopping on board. So if you're calling something out to a room of 500 people that have traded 10,000 shares today, there's gonna be some guy who's left holding that bag, and it's unfortunate, right? So even though you're not really seeing it because you've just done it and it's always worked, it's still working for you because you're the first guy in, you're the first guy out. But there's someone out there it's not working for anymore. Again, I don't know, probably just making a lot of enemies here while I'm scanning for stocks and rambling. I always call it Lego talk. You ever just like when you're sitting with your buddy as a kid and you're just building Legos, and then it turns out that the two of you were just talking and you don't have a sweet goddamn clue what it was you guys were talking about, but you were just yammering on? I'm probably the king of Lego talk. AKAM, I like this pullback, right? We're kind of dealing with the support of 52. So I'm going to take a look at this area, feed this into the bot to see if we can get a pull down tomorrow. What was my longest bot cold period? With this style, I should knock on everything that I can find in this room, but there has not been a cold period yet. That not really. I had 1 week, I guess, where I lost 3 days and only won 2. That was my fault. I again came back into the office and started hitting keys and thought I knew something after not placing a trade for 6 months. But my longest cold period ever is when I was started was months, right? It took me probably longer than it takes most traders to get consistent. And it really just hit me when I figured out that I can be wrong 60% of the time and still make money if I'm really, really tight to be out when I'm wrong. So what are you looking at? LK with JEC. It's a good bottoming tail, but just looks a little bit overdone on the intraday. If I were to trade this, I would ask the bot for a pretty significant pullback first, or to chop sideways for a long period of time. All right, we're gonna go into the hammer scan. I avoided this one today. It's looking for things with bottoming tails, but the reason I avoided it is because the market has a bottoming tail. Ideally, we're gonna look for hammers into or at resistance. Would be the best. So again, I never knock on, I never want to go after any of these guys who are selling courses and stuff, because if you come join our prop firm, we sell you a course, right? It's with me. I sit down with you and now it's $300 instead of thousands. And after that, we're going to give you money of ours to trade with. So it's a little different, but maybe they're teaching amazing things. I'm gonna add lows here. We got a good trade off this the other day, short actually, I think, in through here. It's holding this 85 strongly. It's kind of hard to see on the intraday chart, but I know Lowe's trades amazingly intraday. So I'm going to look for, again, programming that little pullback pattern back to 85. See if we can get a bounce off that. Or if we can get any sort of pullback that buyers step in this area. That's what I'm going to look for there. Yeah, so again, I don't want to, there are some people out there that do great work, but I just can't, and it's why I lean to the one-on-one mentoring. Is you have to know that this is no longer something that you can just piggyback off someone else, that this is something that you're willing to put the time in, the effort in, learn and build. And like we have our traders doing up playbook trades and stuff at the end of the night, and we have monthly meetings where we bring all of our traders in, and I pick one and I say, okay, I want you to show me, right, what's been working for you, what has been killing it on your end. TGT we're gonna add as well. Nice strong kind of push up here from resistance, and then two nice bottoming tails here and here. Still has a lot of room to go to get to where the high of this gap is. And then tons of room after that. So, why do we have these long meetings? I just want the meetings. I think are absolutely fantastic. All of our traders love them, because one guy, shows off what he's been doing that's been working for him. He shows off what his favorite trade was of that month. And the rest of them get to hear other people's trading philosophies and what they're doing and what's working and that type of thing. And it's a sharing experience, right? From a guy who traded on a physical prop firm way back in the day, the best part of the trading, the best part of the prop firm to me was that everybody could kind of learn from each other, right? The guy who was doing the worst was always sitting right next to the guy who was doing the best. Coach is interesting. I'm going to add this one on here. Just a strong update, nice pullback on declining volume, good intraday support right here. So again, this will be a support play to see if we can get a bounce somewhere near here. Oh, why won't I name the people who I think are doing this? Because I think you guys know, right? I think you guys know the guys who are not talking about charts and strategies and valuing their risk rewards. I think you know the guys who are just like, hey, look at my millions of dollars and look at my nice house and fancy cars and blah blah blah. And again, I don't want to fight with any of them because I don't know. I'll hear from people, and I'll hear from two people. They'll come in and they'll. Let's use the Warrior Trading guy, for example, because I think he's the best of the bunch. I think. And that's only because I've had a handful of students come to me and say, yeah, I don't like his trading style, but he seems like a genuine guy. But I don't know, right? There's no way to know, really. Oh, why did I choose? Oh, you're just pointing out my username. Jeez, here I am just rambling aimlessly. It means in some island language, well off. And that's always just been my goal with trading. To go back to the guys with the fancy mansions and the blah, blah, blah. My goal has always just been well off, right? It just, today I came in. UBS is interesting. Decent little range, or no, HUBS. Yeah, we're going to put this guy on. Strong move up, little gap up, came down two bottoming tails as we tested filling the gap and put in some decent resistance here. So we're going to try this one for a bit of a move tomorrow. It's a little bit more volatile than I would like, but we might put this on the higher stop list. I don't know. I'll look at that. I have all weekend. Yeah, so my goal was always to be well off, and so it's a combination of different languages and stuff. So that's just what it means, which is always the goal that I remember. I remember one guy I used to trade with on the prop firm would take 2 weeks off every year and go do the shittiest job he could do. So like 1 year he went and dug ditches, and then 1 year he went and got a job at a cashier at McDonald's. And it was to remind himself that no matter how frustrated he got, no matter how angry he would get at the markets and they're out to get me, and look, I did this thing forever and it worked phenomenally and now it doesn't work. Are you telling me I need to go and work 60 hours a week now to figure out a new trading style that works? These 2 weeks a year would always remind him, at the end of the day, I'm sitting in an air-conditioned office hitting buttons, right? I'm not... Jesus, the McDonald's one. I would dig ditches for years before I'd want to work at McDonald's. Yeah, so I always took that to heart, and that was always the name, is just don't go nuts. Don't be just be well off, right? Don't Don't go from trading 500 shares to 5,000 shares and lose 200 grand in a day and that kind of stuff. But Keith, I have to read the questions for the listeners later. I love that, getting a job for a reminder of how good you have it, which, again, I always thought it was cool. This guy was a bit nuts, but I always thought that was a really cool idea. But who hires you for 2-week spans? He knew a lot of guys. So he knew a lot of, right, the digging ditch, right? He knew a guy that owned a construction company and the McDonald's. He knew a guy who owned the McDonald's franchise and stuff. So he would just talk to friends. And so we have 8. We need 2 more longs. LK's got another suggestion with Bitta, which is a little bit too volatile for me. Oh, that does look nice, though. What's the deal here, LK? Did it gap midday? Oh, 500,000 shares traded today. I can't trade that one. I really do like the look of that intraday chart. If you're trading really small and you don't mind spreads and slippage, I like the breakout and pullback. So I like the pattern. I just don't like the fundamentals. No, I worked at Canadian Tire you guys are probably American, don't know what that is. It's our Walmart/Lowe's, I guess. You get your tires there. It's called Canadian Tire, and you get your barbecue, and you get some basic building supplies, and you get some basic stuff like that. I worked there for years. I worked on the elections, getting idiot people, teaching them how to vote. Right? I've done all kinds of stuff. I definitely do appreciate where I am. I think, and more than that, it's important to get ready to defend it, right? If something happens, what are you gonna do, type of thing. I really try hard not to push to get to the magic number of 10. So if I go through this list and one more and I can't find any, and that other one will be this one, which I'll pull out. One beautiful thing about trade ideas. Remember, you can always. This is what my setup looks like now, but this will change as times change, right? As different setups change. So this is a trend change lubricant, which, if you follow the trade ideas guides at all, they give this one a lot of weight. I like it as well. Looks for things that have been beaten up and are starting to show life again. Nothing in that one. And then let's look at the high short flow percentages. And if we can't get that, I'm just going to quit with the I'm just going to quit with 8. I'm not going to force it. And then what I'll probably do is I'll probably cut 2 out of the short to see. Oh, there we go. Weight Watchers we're going to put on. Massive short percentage in Weight Watchers, and we had this gap up the other day, and we pulled back 3 days in a low, declining volume back near the breakout area. Even if it's just a dead cat bounce for one day, right? We're day traders, and that's all we need. Man, I love trade ideas. And again, I feel dirty saying it now that I sell it. But the fact that I was like, man, I can't find anything to trade. And I bet you if I spent any length of time with these other scans, I only need one more, but I could fill the list no problem. And all of this is just a list. Again, I can share this one easily if you guys want it. That is just sorting the entire market by the amount of shares short in the float. Often with heavily shorted stocks, if they get any sort of kind of momentum. Lumber liquidators we're going to put in for the last one. And let's go over that list. Quite often with heavily shorted stocks, you can get nice little pops. If you know, if you're short, and we know that a lot of people are, if you start getting a bit of a push, there's a lot more people that go, oh shit, and then I need to cover my short because I'm losing money. Then it goes higher, and then, you know, your broker starts calling you and says you're short, and then it goes even higher. And right, so that if you haven't heard the term a short squeeze, that's what it is. It's this kind of snowball momentum thing that possibly can happen. Again, I look at the market as kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy. So if a lot of people think it can happen, a lot of people are going to watch those stocks, right? So there's the short float percentage as well. So did our longs update. Okay, let's quickly go through our longs here. AKAM, we were just basically going to play this one off of the 52 support area. I always try to say support area because, you know, 20, 30 cents one way or the other does not nullify support. CATM, basically same play. Coach, strong move, nice pullback to support. Hubs, same kind of deal. Strong move, nice pullback, support-ish area. IPHI, we had a gap down, but we've been holding this gap down really well with bottoming tails each and every day. Nice base here, so this is probably a little bit more of a breakout play above that type of area. But again, what the bot will see as a trade will be different than what I'm thinking. Lumber liquidators heavily shorted. Gap down. It's been holding the gap really well and had a really strong close today. So we're going to look for strength in that one tomorrow. Low, same kind of thing. Strong move, pull back, bottoming tails here at 85. Nice strong close, kind of right at the breakout zone for lows. So above that, maybe we get a little run. STOR, simple oversold with intraday resistance forming. So this would be more of a pullback. Target, same. A lot of retailers on this list. I might keep an eye on Twitter. I have all weekend to go through. I've just noticed that we've got a couple, you know, LL and Lowe's might move somewhat together. Same with Target. So I might take a look at these a bit on the weekend. Follow me on Twitter. I'll post on Sunday what the final list is. But on Target, big strong move, pull back, two bottoming tails. Might look for a little pop higher here. And Weight Watchers, a pretty substantial gap up, and then a pullback right to the gap out area, and then this sideways action into support. So that is our list, and we went longer than I thought, but now I'll open it to any and all questions. At the same time, I'm going to go to the email that I asked. Who the hell is Doug from Right Way Options? How do you get my damn email? Get out of here. Sorry, that was rude. Oh, yes, Keith. Other Keith, I'm sorry. I missed your email as well. Alright. Load from cloud. Copy. And then we're going to load this up. And what did you want from us here? 5-day bull flag. Okay. Is this a back-tested scan that you're working on? No. Or is this just you're looking to build a scan that alerts you on a bull flag type of like this? Because if that's the case, I got some suggestions for you. I'll kind of leave it to you to work, but for a bull flag, your best bet is to start playing with the position and ranges. So I see what you're going for here, and I like it. These filters, I think, are going to be your best friend. So if you go and you look at how strong is this beer that it took me that long to spell position. So what I would look at is these position and range filters, right? And how they work is like this. So you add the filter and you get the high and the low, right? So let me bring up Paint. Oh, I opened up the start menu. You see all my video game crap on there? All right, so here's how position and range stuff works. So you have a candle that looks like this, right? High and a low. If you tell Trade Ideas you want the minimum position and range to be 0, that means it needs to be above this point, right? If you say you want the maximum position and range to be 100, it means you want it below this point, right? So what you might want to do if you're looking for a bull flag, which traditionally looks something like this, right? And then you're looking for the breakout higher, you might want to say the 20-day position and range. So then this would be like a monthly candle, right? Maybe you want it up here. So maybe you want a minimum of 75, and then it'd be in the top end of this range. Or maybe you just want a 10-day range, right? So you want the last 2 weeks, maybe you want it in the upper end of the last 2 weeks trading. In which case you're going to get something that I think is going to look a little bit more like you want it to, which is more of that bull flag thing. So go in and start to mess with these position and range filters and say, okay, it needs to be somewhere in this. Because what you're seeing is that, like this, for example, it's not a bull flag, right? Because it's down, right? So if you said position in yearly range, you wanted it up here, maybe that works better. But you know, from there you want to adjust where, I guess, the action happens, and that's what the position and range filters is. So to be honest, for you, that's what I would start to play with that filter. Also, you can make sure that you're not like running up into a bunch of shit. The other thing you might want to look at is an average true range filter. Or price, right? This is, I don't know why the hell. Oh, I see. It's still bringing in average true range data from way back here. So maybe a price filter would help you out. This is, you know, a bit nuts there, but I would play with those. And again, you can always email me if there's anything more. So you can let me know. Yeah, minimum $1. So if that's what you want to play, that's what you want to play. So I would just take a look at the position and range. Instead of average true range, you might want to say in the last, you might want to do the last 15-minute range. Because I can see even if you had an ATR filter in there, because this one just became a dollar stock, it would have snuck through. So maybe you want to look at like the last 15-minute range, and you want to make that like a quarter or something to make sure that it actually moves enough. Because, you know, this chart might be amazing, but the thing doesn't really move, so it's going to be hard to get it money out of it, right? So maybe that, and that's just another filter, right? And position in, or sorry, a 15-minute range, and you can just put a minimum in there. So questions? Anyone? Is anyone still here? I know the weekend is looming. Any questions? Let me know. The other thing is I got to figure out, these obviously take a bit of time. People seem to be liking them, but there's still, it's like 50 people are watching them a day, which, right, I'm trying to get bigger. Really don't know why, but bigger rather than smaller, right? Reach more people, more mentorship stuff, more trade ideas stuff, that type of thing. But I might continue next week. I might do another week. Let me know. Email, tweet me, share it with friends. that type of thing. Basically, I go through my analytics and I see, okay, what are people actually watching? We can do all kinds of crazy stuff in there. I can see how long people watched, right? There's a bunch of videos I have where people have just watched the first 3 seconds. I don't know if I like farted into the microphone or something and then they left, but yeah, a fair amount of that. So yeah, I'll stick around for a little bit. So any questions, type them away. If not, stay tuned. I always post on Twitter when new videos and stuff come out. But 15-minute move, 15 cents. That might make sense. Again, it all depends on how much you want to risk and what kind of stocks you're looking for. But a 15-minute range is a good way to make sure that the trade ideas isn't showing you stocks that are just chopping completely sideways. Right, because you're saying, okay, within the last 15 minutes, I want you to have some movement so that when I take the trade, I have some movement to play off of and some money to make. You know, one of the worst things you can do, for me anyway, is when you buy a stock, and we've all done it, and the thing just does nothing all day. And it's to the point where you're looking at it and you're saying, stop me out or make me some money. But just do something. Like, it's just... I can't make a decision because you haven't given me any new data because you've just been chopping sideways the whole day. So 15-minute range might help you out there. So I don't know. On my clock at 6:45, I guess if there's not any significant questions, I'll hang out from there. Can you guys hear the music now? Like, I feel like when I'm doing these scanning videos, there's just so much of dead air that I was like, even if you don't like my music, maybe some background noise is good. Let me move it to -20 and see what this sounds like. Jesus, buddy, go to sleep. You can hear it? Does it sound good compared to my voice? I'll leave it at 30 or 35 right there. Go to sleep? No, that's 10. It's 10:42. Yes, louder now. I loudered it and I quieted it. So if you like it where it is, where I'm talking right now, just type Y in chat and we'll leave it. You'll notice I do a lot of techno-ish type music, and that's more or less just because of what I'm doing. I'm usually a rock and roll guy, old school rock, Warren Zevon, Tom Waits, that kind of stuff, just a little notch down. All right. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff, but okay, notch down. All right, it's -40 now. Let's see if -40 is good. But yeah, with that, the more people talking in my ear, like I'm already trying to scan and speak music with sound in my ears, it's not the best for concentration. There's actually been a bunch of cool studies done on that. So I know there's some people here. So I'll just ask, I guess, you guys one more time, is there any more questions for today before I go and lose all my ranking in Overwatch? The beauty of algo trading, I can do outside things all day, and we're about to have a massive rainstorm here. Government sending what to do if we flood type things. So hunker down tonight, do some scan and play some games. All right, so I'm going to guess there are no more questions. Again, if this is something you want to continue to see, tell your friends, call up your grandma. Slippage, do you have an average amount that you use? On all of my back tests, I use slippage, so I know what it is. And I have my bot sending out limit orders plus or minus 2 to 3 cents. And that's it. That's the only slippage that I'll use. So limit order will be whatever the number you see here my bot out will send out that depending on the algo between 1 and 4 cents. So then I know what my slippage is. On the way out, you don't know what your slippage is. You just don't, right? So yeah, definitely limit orders in, stop losses out, because if shit's getting bad, you'd probably want to hit a stop loss. But definitely always limit in for sure. And again, emails below. I know I've got some that I'm going to check probably tomorrow, because I really want to play some Overwatch tonight. But you can always email me for questions. If you saw anything you liked here with trade ideas, links down below as well. You can check that out. So if I'm cutting anyone off and there's any more questions, just fire me an email and I'll get back to you on the weekend. And if I don't get back to you on the weekend, send me another email, because that means I'm stupid and I forgot. Not that I was rude and didn't get back to you. So see you guys maybe next week. Let me think about whether or not I want to commit to this for another week. But if not, trade safe out there.